Do you see that? That's the real world. For just about all of human history, if you wanted a job, you had to work out there. But in the past few decades, a little thing called the internet has changed all that. In barely a generation, we've seen the rise of dozens of new career paths that anyone can theoretically aspire to. YouTuber, podcaster, independent author, Instagram model, Twitch streamer, the list goes on and on. Sometimes these are all lumped together under the label influencer, but that's so broad as to be meaningless. I've been on YouTube nearly 10 years now, as an amateur, a professional, and now a semi-pro. I have lots of thoughts and opinions about what the industry is like. Others have different thoughts and opinions though, so I decided to ask them, why is YouTube? Hello everyone, welcome to actually the first ever episode of this. This is the first person to agree to be on here, so why don't you introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, what you do.
I'm Joe Kassabian. I am the host of the Lions Led by Donkeys podcast. I'm also an author. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty basic. I've been listening to his stuff for a bit. It's gotten me through many boring hours at work. I do appreciate that, if nothing else. So thank you for that, Joe. And also thank you for being on here.
It's a joy. I don't actually do much on camera, so I'm unprepared with a very shitty webcam.
No, it's okay. My webcam's shitty too. So I just gotta ask, when you first started doing this, when you first started working online, were you planning on doing this as a career? Like, was this something you jumped into and just went, yes, I want to do this for money forever, or was it just a hobby, or what?
Oh God, no. It started as a joke, slash hobby, if you will, with a friend of mine. We both had full-time jobs, where we would drink beer and watch really bad things on the History Channel, as I'm sure most people are aware of how awful things on the History Channel are these days. Um, and we would effectively do like mystery science theater type shit while watching them. And one of our partners said, "You two need to start a podcast, or please, I'm begging you, shut up." And instead of taking the hint and shutting up, we started a podcast. That was back in 2018, and we were making no money. I started a Patreon to cover the cost of like hosting on SoundCloud and getting microphones and stuff. And I had written a book before then, but I still had a full-time job. I was a firefighter at the time, and he was still in the army. So we definitely were not planning on leaving our careers. But it's been almost 7 years, and it's taken off. It's kind of weird to think about, but I was absolutely never even having the faintest dream of thinking that this is how I was going to pay my bills.
Yeah. Honestly, mine went kind of a similar way. I just got bored, started talking to a camera, and people listened. So here we are.
It's the weirdest thing, right? Like you're
Yeah.
talking into this bot. I mean, at the time I was recording, I had my co-host in the room with me. Now my co-hosts are kind of spread throughout Europe these days, and we do everything over the computer. But for the first several years, I guess we did the thing that like most people that do what we do, they just don't do it. Is we were all there already. And Nate, our producer, took sweet mercy on us because a friend sent him the podcast and said the idea is good, but the sound quality is fucking terrible. Please, like, could you fix it? But he sent me a DM on Twitter because I had guested on his show with a different host, not him. And he's like, "Look, I will do your audio production for a cut of what you're making on Patreon." And I was like, "Well, that'll be about $20 right now." And it's been history ever since. I still have no idea how to do audio production, so everything works out
Me
great.
neither. Me neither, man. It just sort of happens. So, could you walk me through producing an episode of your show? Like just from conception to getting it out. What's the process there?
Um, it's in the beginning, it really boils down to, am I interested in this specific story? Because I do all of the research and the writing. Sometimes other people do as well, but 99% of the time it's me. I refuse to hire any research assistants because I'm psychotic. And if I find something that interests me, I start looking for resources, preferably in English. But I can kind of sort of do Dutch and Armenian. if I have to. And we have people on staff that can translate from French and Russian. And from there, I try to find as many resources as I can. I read them all, and then I sit down and start kind of coming up with the beginning, middle, and end of what a script will look like, and I start filling it in as I go along. Then, after I'm done with that, I'll do kind of like a second pass to make sure it actually works because something of a surprise. I've written many scripts that we've never done on the show because after I have gone back through, I'm like, this actually sucks. I don't like this at all. And then it just goes into a Google Drive to never be seen again. And then we record every Tuesday. On Tuesday, I bring the script up and we record it. My co-hosts have absolutely zero idea of what I'm going to be throwing at them. Unfortunately, sometimes they do know a little bit about the topic, so I kind of have to try harder to get them shocked or biting or whatever it might be. But generally speaking, they show up completely blind, and that's how I like it. I don't want them to yes and me on historical topics necessarily, because the way I look at it is they're supposed to be the stand-in for the fans, right? Like reactions and jokes. Like, their job is to be funny. I'm not funny, so I bring the historical research. They bring the comedy because I'm not a funny person.
So once you started pursuing this as like an actual job, about how long did it take before you felt comfortable doing it and you were able to support yourself?
Hmm. I kind of had my hand forced. I made a career transition from civil service into being a school teacher around the same time COVID hit, which was not on purpose. And I ended up working for the public school system in Honolulu, Hawaii. Anybody who's familiar with how the state functions in Hawaii will probably know where this story is going. And that is the public school system ran out of money and began laying off teachers.
Oh,
And I had some of the least seniority at my school, especially in my grade. So I was one of I think it was like the second group to get laid off. And then I had to think, okay, well, I haven't been here this particular, that long. It's really expensive to leave Hawaii. I need to figure out what I'm doing. I couldn't get a job with the fire department there because I had missed a hiring wave, and the hiring process for that is very, very long. Like, how can I pay my bills right now? And I had the show going, and that's when I realized, like, okay, this is gonna have to be my thing now. I have no choice.
yeah.
And thankfully it worked. It was really a crapshoot at the time. We were making decent money. Of course, everything is split on top of business costs and everything else. So it's not like I'm making all of the money that it says on Patreon that we make every month, but it was enough. And it's been good ever since. I got very, very, very lucky. I can't even tell you how lucky I got at that period of time because that's 20. I think that's 2021 or 2022. This happened, um, and a lot of other people kind of got put in the same position as I did, and they weren't so lucky. So I'm really, really, really happy, to be able to pull that off.
It's actually kind of weird looking at similarities here because I was in a similar position. Yeah. Like I had a job, it was public facing and I kind of hated it already. So I was just like, you know what? 2020 happened and everyone's getting sick. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to retreat into my bedroom and quit this job and then see what happens. And I
Yeah.
mean, I got a real job again eventually, but for a couple years there,
Yeah, I mean, the thought has certainly crossed my mind at certain points because there's this job is wonderful. I think it's one of the best jobs in the world you can have, but it certainly has its drawbacks.
yeah.
And one of those is like the complete lack of security. Uh, so like the idea is it constantly, tickles at the back of my brain of like, do should I go get a normal job? And now I can't because of my visa situation here in the Netherlands. I have no choice but to make this my only job. But certainly before I left the United States, I thought about it.
I don't know. For what it's worth, I have a normal job on top of this, and I keep considering quitting that still. So, I don't know. Grass
Oh,
is
I'm
greener.
sure I would do the same thing. I would probably be back at a normal workplace for all of 2 weeks, and I'd want to crawl out of my own skin.
Hmm. So the amount of content on the internet is just constantly growing at an exponential rate. No one even knows. When you first started, how did you manage to stand out among the crowd, and how are you continuing to stand out today?
I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea. I think that's something that a lot of content creators, for lack of a better term, content creators
I
could
don't like that
say.
term, but it's the best one we have.
Yeah, I prefer content creator over influencer because I really hope I'm not influencing anybody.
Yeah, no,
Um,
do not call me a fucking influencer, man. Don't do it.
um, I was inspired by several other podcasts that kind of had the same format that we use, but not the same content. It's a mix of true crime and news and politics. We're doing the presenter, and then the other side of the table was the crowd stand-in that didn't do any research or anything. And I am a historian by trade, in education, and one of the things that always bothered me is nobody was really doing that with history to the same extent. And I think a lot of it has to do with maybe the lack of, I mean, because it requires a certain level of gallows humor, right? The very dark humor to be able to laugh at some of these things. And some things you just can't laugh at. I mean, we're doing a series right now about the Armenian genocide. Zero laughs. And I'm Armenian, so there's even less laughs, right?
I don't blame you
Um,
for that one.
and we find levity where we can. I think that that is always very important. But there's some things that you just have to present straight and to the point. But I think that there was a niche there. It's very small, especially because we generally cover military history. We also cover general history from time to time, but we generally stay in military history, which is kind of a niche of a niche, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and it was one like overwhelmingly dominated by right wing chuds, for a lack of a better term. When you get into the military history space, even sometimes the history space on the internet, it's overwhelmingly dominated by right wing voices. And that always bothered the hell out of me. As a school teacher and as someone who spent years studying my particular field, which is not military history at all, it's the history of genocides. But it always bothered me that nobody was kind of taking advantage of this. And not that that was something that we set out to do. We didn't have a fucking plan. We didn't have a plan past 1 to 5 episodes. And by episode 10, we did a Q&A because we were so surprised we were still around. But I think that's where we kind of slid in, was it's a history show where you don't have people constantly spinning the wheels about trying to make fascists look good or sound good, or this is how Hitler would win World War II, or wasn't Rhodesia great? Um, uh, it like that is the history space generally on the internet, and I think by simply being normal, for a lack of a better term, was all it took in a way.
Actually, sorry if this is a tangent. I'm vaguely remembering something. Is it true a fan of yours found out there was a dead Nazi buried in Zimbabwe and pissed on his grave and sent you a photo of it or something?
It was a video, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a
Okay.
Zimbabwean guy. He
So,
found out after we did an episode on one of I believe he was from like Milwaukee or Minnesota. It was an American neo-Nazi who went to Rhodesia and enlisted in the Rhodesian military, as many Nazis did, because Rhodesia was a Nazi state, and died fighting. I believe he was actually killed in a friendly fire accident. And he got buried there outside of Harare. And the guy ended up finding out he lived right down the street from the cemetery and had no idea he was buried there, and he went over there and pissed all over his grave.
okay.
I have been told that multiple other people have done the same thing since, but I've only ever gotten proof of it happening once.
Okay. I just needed to make sure I wasn't misremembering that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's
It's one of my
beautiful.
proudest moments, to be completely honest.
How do you describe what you do to people? Like, if people ask you what your job is, how do you describe it? Do you have a
Uh,
cover story?
I generally say I'm a writer or a historian. And then unfortunately, it's an answer that only brings more questions. Like, oh, so what do you write? And like, I am also a writer. I have multiple books published. So I could say I'm a science fiction author, or I'm a fantasy author because I'm working on a fantasy novel now. Um, but like, they also are kind of like squinting and like, so is that how you pay your bills? I'm like, fuck no. I guess I'm a podcaster, which is a lot easier to say now than it was like 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
My mom, however, thinks I work in radio because she has no idea what a podcast is.
Oh, she actually thinks like you haven't corrected her?
I mean, like, how do you describe to your almost 70-year-old mother who doesn't really know what the internet looks like outside of Facebook what a podcast is, other than it's kind of radio on your cell phone?
Right. All right, I guess so.
I hope she never listens to it, to be completely honest.
Huh. Yeah, I feel that way sometimes. Like there's some stuff that I make and it's just like this is gonna be great for the internet. I hope grandma doesn't see it.
Yeah, yeah. That's something that I have been not necessarily worried about. As it's become my job, other members of my family have listened to it, and they're not happy because obviously they don't share the same kind of sense of humor that I have, especially regarding some events in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but they also understand I've always been this way. For people who maybe have never listened to the podcast, or maybe they do listen to the podcast and they hear me say something that is completely out of pocket or insane, I have always been that way. I've always used a pretty dark sense of humor to process things, even when I was, 15 years old. I got in trouble a lot. And now I don't know if it's better now that I'm older. I've more, I don't know, material for dark jokes, I suppose.
Okay.
So I think they're least surprised of anybody. My uncle always said that he's like he thought I thought you were going to go into stand up comedy. Like, nope.
That's difficult to do. So I think I know the answer to this next one, but have you ever been recognized in public?
Yes,
Oh.
I definitely have.
Oh.
Um, Not so much in the US, because the show really took off. I was already out of the country. I was living in Armenia, and now I live in the Netherlands. I've been recognized constantly in Armenia, and I've been recognized quite a few times here in the Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, everybody's really cool. Which like I would never think that they wouldn't be. To be fair, I understand that I'm a guy, so my relationship to strangers saying hi to me is going to be much different than other people, right? There's less of a possibility of weirdness, I believe. But everybody's been very nice, very courteous when they run into me. People take pictures in front of the studio here in The Hague. Um, do it. I don't care.
Okay. Yeah.
What I one time there's two people taking a picture outside the studio because for some reason my landlord put a sign there that I did not ask for, that says Lions Led by Donkeys Productions. Um, I did not ask for this. I did not pay for it. And there's two people taking pictures of it, and I rode up on my bicycle. Um, and I don't think they recognized who I was, because they're like, "Oh, sorry, let us get out of your way," because I was parking my bicycle, and then I unlocked the gate to the studio and walked past them, and I think they were very confused.
So, would you say your social life has a lot of overlap with your professional life now, or are those separate spheres?
Largely separate. I mean, I certainly work with my co-hosts and everything. Some of the best friends I have for sure. But I also have plenty of people have absolutely nothing to do with what I do for work. Because I don't think anybody wants to hang out with a room full of podcasters all the time. It sounds insufferable. But Tom and Nate, my co-hosts, are some of the best friends I could ask for. And then I hang out from time to time with other people we've worked with in the past. But generally speaking, most of my friends are normal people. They're not internet people, which is nice and weird. Because in a lot of ways, that like a lot of the things that we end up getting tapped into as being people that work on the internet is like a different plane of reality to people
Yes.
that go into an office or whatever, or in some cases like work for a school or whatever it may be. I'm like, oh, I can't even tell you about what I was working on today. Like, you'll think I'm a crazy person.
Yeah, I feel like this working in this sphere rots your brain in a very specific way, and you gotta work hard to keep yourself grounded in reality sometimes.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I'm really happy that most of the people I'm friends with here in the Netherlands have like normal people jobs, and it makes me be normal.
Yeah.
I had a much harder time doing this when I first lost my full-time job, and I was doing it because it was during COVID as well. I was living in Hawaii, which is like pretty much one of the few states in the US that had like pretty strict lockdowns and stuff. So I couldn't really go anywhere. even if I wanted to be like irresponsible, I'd get fined or whatever. So like I got deeply weird during that time, as many people did.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I feel like I've gotten as normal as a podcaster can be.
So what's your favorite and your least favorite parts of what you do?
Favorites. That one's hard. Um, I I never saw myself ever working in, I guess, entertainment is a way of putting it. But it's very rewarding. Obviously, 99.9% of the time, it's me and my two friends being idiots on what amounts to be a Zoom call when we record, right? But seeing like we have a fan Discord, seeing people's reactions to our episode is is great. Doing live shows, which we've done several now, we're doing more in the future, and hearing people actually laugh is one of the most rewarding things I think I've ever experienced. On top of people emails on on our podcast email or Patreon comment saying, I never really gave a shit about history before I started listening to your show. Now I'm really interested in it, which is like the whole point, right? Um, I was a history teacher, and one of the things that always bugged me is people said history was boring. It's because the way we teach history in America is fucking boring.
Mm.
And it turns a lot of people off the subject. And it's really, I think it's one of the best feelings on earth to get to have someone say, "You've changed my mind about that," or people saying that the show helped them through a hard time, whatever that hard time might be. Is like I could never even dream of that being a possibility, and it's great. It makes me feel wonderful that I'm actually having something of a positive impact on this stupid fucking show we've been making for almost a decade. um, the worst part is by far the work hours are awful.
What work hours?
Everybody says make your hobby into your job and you'll never work a day in your life. It actually is make your hobby your job and you never have a day off ever
Yeah.
again.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
I am constantly reminded by my friends and my partner that Joe, you worked 12 hours today. What are you still working on? Stuff like that. And again, I kind of talked about this before. It was the instability of it all. I'm almost 37 years old. Hypothetically speaking, I probably can't do this job forever. Um, I don't know how much money I'm making from one month to the next. And until I moved to the Netherlands, I had no health care. So, you know, things like that. Also, and now I don't have a boss. Everyone is my boss. Um, I like to think of myself as a very thick-skinned individual, thanks to or in spite of my time being in the military and being verbally abused by people when I was a teenager. But there is when you become a public facing person and you talk into a microphone for a living. And I have it even not even nearly as hard as you because your face is on camera all the time. Most people
Yeah.
don't even know what I look like. Um, and there's something that happens when you look at someone through a screen or you only hear their voice that like the humanity of that person is kind of degraded in a way. And people can say some intensely hurtful fucking things about you. Um,
Yes.
or your family or whatever. And they don't bother me necessarily, but it's also something of a problem that it happens so frequently that you have to become insulated to them.
Yeah.
That's just a part of working as a public person. And I'm not saying, oh, woe is me or whatever. 100% more people have it worse than I do. But like, it's weird that a normal part of our job is like, yes, people are going to fucking hate you for reasons you can't even contemplate. They'll threaten to kill you. They'll threaten to do other unspeakable things to you or people that you love. And it just comes with the territory.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I lucked out a little bit because a lot of the hate I've gotten, I have no idea how this started exactly, but for some reason there's a group of anti-Semites on the internet who think that I'm Jewish. I'm not Jewish, but they like to hit me with slurs for Jewish people, and I'm like, I can't even be offended. That's not a group I'm a member of.
Yeah, I've gotten that. I've gotten all the normal right-wing type hatred that comes with existing as a sane person on the internet. My co-hosts get it, I think, probably even harder than me due to the communities they're a part of. Um, I'm a white presenting straight man on the internet. I have it as easy as anybody could possibly have it.
Could be
So I'm
worse.
not I'm not I'm not going to complain too much about that front, but it is strange that that is a normal thing that just comes with the territory.
So a lot of industries and businesses rely on whales, which is a small number of customers that spend a lot of money. Well, would you say your business model relies on that?
Thankfully, no, not necessarily. Um, we made a decision quite a few years ago that we wouldn't accept ad money because we can't control what ads we would carry. And I'm sure you and other people have been listening to podcasts that have a certain political lean in one way or another, and then like the most off the fucking wall ad on earth will come up for like Trump coins or BetterHelp or whatever it might be, and things that you're just like diametrically opposed to. And so we said from the very beginning we weren't going to do that. So we started a Patreon. And thankfully, I mean, our Patreon is very, I think, reasonably priced. You can spend as little as $1, and in fact, most people do. It's the largest tier we have is $1. You can pay $5. Once upon a time, someone asked if they could give $25, and my response was, "Why would you want to do that?" Because I do. Okay, here, and I don't think anybody even donates at that tier anymore. Um, but I would like to think that if someone wants to be a whale, so to speak, and if they have nothing else they need that money for, great. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure about that. But I know a lot of other I know the kind of businesses you're thinking of, especially like gotcha games and stuff like that. I'm kind of glad that we have no profit model where it would allow that to happen in a way, because it's like very exploitative in a way, like loot boxes and like give money so you can get the next shiny thing or whatever. I'm really happy that we have no way to do that. But yeah.
What would you say the biggest difference is between your job and a regular one? I just wouldn't put quotes around regular. It's just a regular job.
Yeah. As it stands now, um as so far as like away from the idea of like building uh a profit base where it is a job rather than a hobby. I think the biggest difference is I would say stability, but that kind of doesn't exist for anybody anymore, you know? It would have been a pension, but most people don't have that anymore. I think the main difference, and most important difference is since it's a creative effort and you're public facing, occasionally, I mean, it just the you get way more criticism than you ever do praise. And now that I think about it, that is just like being in the military again. So I don't really know what the biggest difference would be other than you're moderately well known in a way. Like to a niche of people, you are internet famous. And that is weird. I think with that comes a lot of problems and a lot of responsibilities. And I certainly never had to worry about that working behind a desk. I just had to worry about my supervisor.
Okay.
I didn't like that fucking guy anyway, but at least you'll need to worry about like one guy's opinion.
Would you recommend people try to enter your field?
Depends. Um, it's very rewarding. I love my job. Um, but to enter the field, so to speak, from like the very ground level, starting a Patreon with $0 in it, or trying to pitch a podcast to some network, I don't even know how that part of it works, to be completely honest. Um, Only if you have something to pay your bills. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorite YouTubers, a guy named Super Eye Patch Wolf, did an episode about what it's like to be like an influencer or a content creator.
Know what you're talking
And
about.
yeah, I mean, I understand things are different for podcasters, but a lot of the shit he said lined it up perfectly, which is to enter the field now in 2025, I have no idea what you have to do because I did it 7 years ago. The internet that long ago and the internet today are completely different.
Mhm.
And to enter today, I think you have to be better than I was, like no doubt, Just like if a YouTuber is entering today, you have to be better than you were when you started.
Yes, 100%.
There's a certain level of quality everybody expects now that you just don't you don't get like the good faith um like middle area where people are like, oh well, they'll get better. Because like when we started, our sound system was terrible. I had the cheapest mics available. I had no soundproofing. I had very little audio production until I got one. Um, and people listened anyway because back then it was normal for someone's sound to be kind of janky. Now you have to start off and just be great, like from the get go. So to start off, you have to be better than I am. Which to be fair is when it comes to technology knowledge of like the whatever Adobe Edition or whatever is not hard to do, but you have to be so much better now to succeed, and you have to be so much better, and it's harder even to get your name out there because when I started, it was easy. Have an audience on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
It directly feeds over to someone who will probably listen to your bullshit. Now Twitter is just a hive of neo-Nazis. And everybody's scattered to the wind. I mean, social media, the internet itself is way worse and different. So, I mean, if someone really still wants to do it, yeah. But it's kind of like, to me, it's the same as if like your brother or cousin or sister or friend, whatever, was like, I really want to be an artist. Do it, like go for it, but make sure you have a fallback plan. Like go for it as hard as you can, but make sure you have a way to pay your bills and make sure you like, I don't know, get a college education if you can. This shouldn't be the only plan.
So if you were a different type of online creator, like you weren't a podcaster, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh man. I would like to think that I would be good as like a YouTuber, but I don't think I would be. I'm not good on camera. I'm kind of nervous when people are looking at me. But I think if I was to pick something that I would do and still be an online person, I maybe YouTuber. I feel like that'd be the most fun because I think streaming would drive me insane.
Streaming takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, streaming for hours at a time. I can't think of any better way to make me hate the thing that I do for a living.
I stream occasionally. I stream occasionally. It really sucks the life out of you.
I don't know how people fucking do it. I was like, oh yeah, did you watch this stream? He's playing this video game for 8 hours. Like, I would love to play video games for 8 hours every once in a while. Don't get me wrong, but having to entertain while doing it, couldn't do it. It sounds like a great way for me to never want to play a video game again.
Last question. When society collapses and we're all living in a Mad Max wasteland, what will your Mad Max car look like?
Oh fuck yeah. I already got the make and model for you. It's gonna be a Toyota Prius, and this is why.
Okay. Continue, please.
This is why. I like every native born Detroiter love cars. And I, unlike most of them, treat my cars like shit. I never learned how to do like the most basic maintenance on earth, so that required me to eventually learn from friends. And of all of the cars that I own, being the good American that I am, I've always owned a car until recently when I moved to Europe. I had Fords, they've broken down on me, Chevys, they've broken down on me. The only thing that's never failed, Toyota Prius.
Oh,
And
okay.
with this Mad Max situation, fuel's going to be out the window. Prius has great gas mileage. You get the one with the hatchback, you can fit casualties back there. You can carry supplies. If it's got a sunroof, you got yourself a technical, son. It can be everything. The Toyota Prius is the vehicle of war. If someone could just figure it out. I mean, failing that, of course, a Toyota Hilux, but it's going to be a Toyota.
Okay, so just a straight Toyota Prius. You're not gonna put anything crazy on it?
No, I think what we need in a situation like this is reliability, right? I mean, it doesn't need to go very fast because most people's cars, they're not going to have them. They're going to be jankety pieces of shit. So you just need something that's reliable and it can move. And a Prius is not going to ever break down on you. You never have to worry about plugging it in because I'm sure the electrical grid's all dead in this situation. And it can run off of like a drop of gasoline. you know?
Okay, well, that was good. Well, thank you again so much for coming here. Why don't you take a moment to plug all your stuff?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. Again, I am the host of the Lines Up by Donkeys podcast. You can listen to us wherever it is you listen to podcasts. I'm also an author. I At the time of recording, I mostly have military science fiction out on the market, as well as my book, The Hooligans of Kandahar, about my time in Afghanistan. I'm working on some fantasy in the future, maybe this year. Still finalizing my deal for it, so we'll see. But yeah, science fiction, military stuff, and a podcast.
All right. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.